An Irishman and a Pakistani get stranded on a desert island. It's not a joke. It's today's podcast. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh AbdurRaheem McCarthy. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi everyone watching at home. We have actually a thinner, much more youthful looking tribute act to Sheikh AbdurRaheem McCarthy. He's a lookalike, so we thought we'd have him on.
No, I have this actually quite often. It's happened to me that they say, you look just like Sheikh AbdurRaheem McCarthy, mashallah. And I remember one time, brother, he met me and he said, mashallah, you look just like Sheikh AbdurRaheem. He said, the only difference between you and Sheikh McCarthy is that Sheikh McCarthy is fatter than you. So I said, alhamdulillah. I said, all the hard work is paying off, alhamdulillah.
How did you do it, mashallah?
It's a long story, actually. Yeah. But I started when, working out and being more consistent in my workout and my diet. And I started to go down gradually. Yeah. But I think one of the mistakes that I made in the beginning is that the motivational videos I was watching were actually like, the bodybuilders ones were like eating too much. So I was getting, better and stronger and in shape, but I wasn't really losing weight. So I decided that, I had to do something drastic. And we were, in the Middle East for some time, and I went back to Ireland, and we decided to go on a 100% vegan diet, that kind of like shocked the body.
Wow, vegan?
Yeah, just like, even though I'm against veganism, I don't believe in it, especially after my experience. I'm being the most anti-vegan person in the world now. Yeah. SubhanAlllah, because of the experience I went through. It was horrible. I did lose some weight, but wasn't a pleasant experience, I can tell you that much.
I tried the vegan diet as well. I went, I think, 48 hours.
And that was it, huh?
It was interesting. I felt really full up all the time. They're really bloated and stuff.
Yeah, that was the problem.
Carbs and stuff.
So basically, I didn't eat carbs. I only ate salads, fruits and salads. That's it. Just fruit salads.
Fruits and carbs.
Or when they turned to carbs. And I didn't have any rice or anything like that. No, I'm talking about just vegetables and fruits. That's it. And I did that for 17 days.
Wow.
And it was a really horrible experience, honestly. Yeah. Because what happened is that the bloating, because now you're not getting any of the proteins you used to get, and it's just all these fibers that are coming in. So I read about it, and I researched, and I understood, because I wake up in the morning, I have this thin stomach, all of a sudden it's like, it's sticking out, and it would bloat so bad that it would cause pain on my back. Wow. Even when I would walk to the masjid, it was like, it would be so painful sometimes. I felt like I wanted to cry. That's how painful it was. And I read about it, and they said that's normal. Sometimes take a month or a month and a half for you to get over that. So I said, okay, I'll be patient. Because I was going to go for a bit longer.
Get this vegan
diet. Yeah, I'm going to do it, man, So then, but then I noticed, around the 14th, 15th day, I started to notice that the libido was negative 50. There was nothing here, nothing, no movement, no desires. So I was like, this is strange, never happened in my life before. So I said, I have to research. I started to research and go online, watch videos on YouTube, read what I could. And I'm watching all these vegans oh, that's natural, it's normal. I'm like, no, it's not, actually. This is not normal. And even one was like, yeah, but after you get through it, you don't care about that stuff anymore. I was like,
no, oh my gosh.
I was like,
I would hate veganism too.
I was like, you guys are weird, And then I saw one video, the guy said 6 months. He went through it, he said no movement whatsoever, for 6 months, until one day he said that his father forced him to have some raw salmon, and he woke up in the morning and was back to normal, functioning fully, So as soon as I heard that, I was on the night of the 17th day. I went downstairs, we had some salmon, and we had some eggs, and bismillah, it was over.
And I found 18 plus rating on this.
Yeah, bismillah. Alhamdulillah. But after that, basically what I did, so I lost about 7 kgs doing that, and then I went on a keto-ish type of diet, which
you mean you lost 7 kgs after the salmon experience?
No, after before. The vegan, 17 days of vegan. Because any diet you do, even if you leave carbs, what's going to happen to the body? It shocks the body. The body's not used to it. You're going to lose weight.
Wakes up
so it wasn't really hats off to veganism, because if you shock, even I've done it before where I left all carbs and I lost 4 or 5 kilos. So that can happen.
They have this thing called a carnivore diet as well, the opposite of
my wife actually tried that. She enjoyed it much more than
this thing about libido, it's interesting. I think I remember reading some of the books of the Muslim scholars talking about how to hone the desires, and they said there's a link between eating meat and the sexual desire as well.
Apparently so, yes.
Yeah, I think it was Imam Ghazali.
Yeah, it seems to be clear from that experience, and from what others were saying as well. SubhanAlllah.
Now you've got the kashf.
Yeah, that's it,
as
man.
the dhawq has
it's there, big
Ayn al-yaqeen.
Ayn al-yaqeen, no doubt about that.
Seeing is believing.
Yeah, it is, alhamdulillah. So after
Okay,
alhamdulillah, I continued alhamdulillah working out and trying to eat well. Alhamdulillah, I lost about 12 kgs. So now I'm at the middle stage, and now I'm gonna cut down a bit more, and then we'll see where we go from there, inshallah ta'ala.
Okay, mashallah. Maybe next year we can come back and check out the six pack. I'll give it a go as well, inshallah.
Inshallah, bismillah, alhamdulillah.
So you tell us about what you've been doing recently, please. I mean, you moved from. I mean, you grew up in. A lot of people know you grew up in the USA. You're born and raised there. Irish kind of extraction. Yeah. You went back home to Ireland for a while. Yeah.
Actually, it was very interesting because when I decided to move back to Ireland,
I call it back.
Yeah, back.
Even though you're born and raised in.
Back to the homeland, bro. Yeah. That's what it is, man. So I asked different mashaykh and different people of experience and who lived in the West, and should I go back or not? And because when I was 18, I became Muslim, and then I went out to study, and I stayed overseas studying for over 13 years, and then I ended up going to work in Sudan, and worked in, then started my Dawa career, I guess there, or learning when I first started my Dawa there, and then it started international lecturing, traveling, and what have you, and internationally.
Did a stint on Peace TV?
Yeah, and then Peace TV, that's when it started in 2009, and then Huda TV and the other TV channels. And then I moved to Dubai and stayed there for about 3.5, almost 4 years. And then I...
Assalamualaikum guys, sorry to butt in, but if you're enjoying this podcast, please head over to islam21c.com/donate to help us make more. And if you're not enjoying it, head over anyway and help us make better ones.
And I want to help the Dawa in the West, and I had this dream or this, inspiration to kind of build and do things in Ireland, because there was no English-speaking du'at there, or students of knowledge. There's some people giving Dawa, but like as a talib ilm, student of knowledge, there's no one there who was an English speaker. So I would have been, I was the first from that aspect. So I decided to go back and build there. And from the people who warned me not to go was Sheikh Yusuf Estes. Yeah. He has the experience. He said, now it looks good. And he said, the people are promising you this and you're saying this. He said, the same people who are supporting you now and telling you to come, he said, they're the ones who are going to stab you on your back when you go. They're the ones who are going to cause you problems. Yeah. And he said, you're going, my son, through a midlife crisis. And he said, don't do it. He said, you're comfortable where you are, living in the Middle East. So you're doing well there, you and your family. He said, stay there. But obviously sometimes, as you say, you have to go through something and learn it yourself in order to experience it.
Mistakes.
Yeah, that's it. So I didn't listen to his advice. But every now and then I go back to his email, and it was actually much deeper than that. And everything he said would happen to me from the Muslims in Ireland or in the West. It happened, and just as he said, subhanAlllah. And that's what happens in experience. Yeah. And that's one of the things I focus on now. And I think I was speaking to you the other day about, recently when I was in Malaysia, I was visiting Sheikh Hussein Yi. I always benefit the Sheikh, and I benefit, because the people who have the experience in Dawa, and he became Muslim 7 years before I was born. He was giving dawah to people before I was born. Him and Sheikh Bilal Phillips, they were students in the Islamic University in Medina when I was born. So these people who have this experience, and it's very important, we need to revive or put into the mind of the youth. These are the people who go to benefit and to gain from their experience. And subhanAlllah, I always benefit so much from him when I sit with him. So I said, this time, just being another visit, as I'm in Malaysia with my family, I went and I had my son with me, and I said, we're going to record this time. Alhamdulillah, he even brought his team in and we recorded. And the question that I asked him was, mistakes that I made in Dawah. The mistakes that you made, so we can avoid them. My generation, or even the youth who are coming up younger than me. So when we're coming up in the path of Dawah, the things that we shouldn't fall into. And subhanAlllah, even before I was Muslim, one of the things, I got into a lot of trouble, by the way, alhamdulillah, but it ended up guiding me to Islam, alhamdulillah. But one of the things that kept me out, I think, from major trouble, or even more trouble, was the fact that I would hang out with people who were older than me, and they had experience maybe doing, these criminal type of things, but they say, look, we messed up and did this. So I said, okay, let me stay away from it and not do it. And I wouldn't get as much
intergenerational knowledge transfer.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. So I mean, that's what we have to benefit from those who have that experience, alhamdulillah. So that's one of the things I'm focusing on now, is trying to benefit from those things, to remind myself and to remind the others. Because I see a lot of the mistakes that the people are making, the youth who are coming up, they're going through the same mistakes that that we went through, and that our mashaykh who are older than us went through. When they should benefit from the experience they have in front of them, and and not fall into the
And
same
what were
traps.
some of the mistakes that Sheikh Hussein was talking about?
Obviously, I think a lot of it was the issue maybe of shiddah being a bit too harsh, and I think all of us go through that. Maybe it's the hormones.
Yeah.
You know, I was telling you the other
Maybe
day. I
it's
said,
eating too much meat.
maybe eating too much meat. You don't know. I said, as like I said, now I'm very mellow. I've really mellowed out these days. So I mean, this happens. I think all of us go through transitions. But if you're someone who's clever, even if you're younger and you have those, that testosterone. I remember one of our jiu-jitsu coaches. They used to always say, that the younger guys, they'd always be like, going at it really hard and, throwing each other down on the takedowns really hard. Whereas the older guys, we'd be, taking it a bit easier. And she said, it's always, it's the testosterone that you guys have, where you guys are just going at it too hard sometimes, So I think that's something normal, but nonetheless, and as Islam teaches us in many things, to be able to control yourself, to be able to benefit from the mistakes of others. That's why, the stories in the Quran are mentioned. Of the people before us, what they fell into, how they went astray, how they were guided, so we can take from those stories and implement in our lives.
There's a really interesting study that one of our mashayikh they mentioned in Yale, in the maths department there. They had they did an experiment.
You went to Yale. I was thinking about
No. Our mashayikh,
another controversial secret that you had recently.
Yeah, we'll get on to that. So in the maths department there, they did an experiment. They split up the students into two camps. One control group. They gave them both an impossible problem to solve. And they were basically measuring, they were testing how long did it take for them to, quit, basically. So they split them up into two groups. One was just normal. The other one, they said the person who invented this, he was from the same faculty as you guys. That was the only difference between the two. This one very tenuous connection they had between the control group and this test group. And they found out that the test group strove, the people who were told that this problem was written by someone in your faculty here, they strove 50% harder, longer, before they gave up. And that is just the that one little connection they had between with that problem. And they reminded us of, we're discussing, Allah says, وَكُلًّا نَقُصُّ عَلَيْكَ مِنْ أَنْبَاءِ الرُّسُلِ مَا نُثَبِّتُ بِهِ فُؤَادَكَ.
Exactly.
When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, about all these stories that the Prophet ﷺ is given, it's what Allah uses to make firm his heart.
Exactly.
And so if you see someone who's been through the same struggle as you, if you see someone who's, even before you became Muslim, you have that connection with the people. I don't know if they were IRA or whatever.
Actually, I was asked that one time. I was stopped in the airport in the UK.
You're an American, I forgot.
No, that was in the UK. They stopped me one time and they asked me all these questions. I was very, very frank, as I always am. And I think that always makes it easy for them, is that, and they said, they took my phone. They said, are we going to find anything here? I said, look, whatever I say in my lectures, on my Facebook page, in my private message, I said, you'll never, ever find any difference. I said, it's impossible. You'll never find it. Because what I say to you, what I say in private, it never changes. So there's no way you're going to find anything different. You take it if you want. I have nothing to hide. So, and as I was getting up, the guy asked me a question. He said, what do you know about, and he said a word in Gaelic. And I said, what does that mean? He said, you don't know. And I said, no, I don't know. He said, you sure? I was like, yeah, I'm sure. I never heard it in my life.
I'm sure, wink, wink.
And he was like, IRA, what do you have to say about them? And I was like, whoa. I said, I got enough problems with the Muslims, man. So I'm not that Irish. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, Muslim and Irish. That's like a double whammy.
He was police. He was asking. I was like, whoa. And that's one of the questions, you would never think would come when you're being asked. Like, Bismillah.
SubhanAllah. That's crazy, man.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah. So back to the advice from Sheikh Hussein Yi.
Yes,
so one was the shiddah.
Yes, I mean, there was many gyms. If you go back to it's on my YouTube channel, 23 minutes.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think just but that was one of the main things. Just is being more softer, thinking things out. Not being judgmental, not rushing to things. And sometimes we want to get the truth across so hard that we just we hit hard and we come hard, but that actually drives people away. And sometimes you realize that, oh, subhanAllah, if I came back and done it. And that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And who does he have around him? The best of people. The Sahaba radiyallahu anhum. وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَضًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَانْفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ. And if you were someone who was, you were harsh, then they would have run away from you. They would have went away. Subhanallah. So this is what we need to remind ourselves of, those working in Dawa, about being soft, about being merciful, and the approach. And we talked, I believe I spoke with you before about that, is that a lot of times people get in trouble because not necessarily what they say, but how they say it. Many of the du'at, if we look, and subhanAllah, they said, if he had just reworded that, or if he had, came to the same conclusion, but, took a bit of a detour to the right and then came back to the middle and said it, he could have said the same thing and not got himself or his organization or those people around him in trouble.
I think part of the issue is that maybe a lot of, especially if someone is English not their first language.
Exactly, yeah.
And if they're translating in their mind, for example, something that's uncontroversial.
Exactly.
And you kind of say in English.
You see a lot of that.
Yeah, subhanAlllah. Just kind of rewinding back a bit, you mentioned maybe something a bit controversial when you're saying Sheikh Yusuf Estes was saying, the people will, what did he say, sell you out or
stab you in the back.
Stab you in the back.
Was his wording.
What's that about?
Yeah, because obviously you'll find
Sorry, Sheikh Yusuf Estes is still in the US or?
Yeah, he's still there.
Okay.
And because obviously you'll find that a lot of times that people who say they want to support the Dawa and they're behind the Dawa, and then once you start to come into, especially in the masajid, for some reason the masajid in the West, I reached the conclusion that the masajid in the West unfortunately are some of the probably the biggest barrier between us and giving dawah.
Wow.
Even now when people ask me when
I was about Hadouken to them.
When I travel across the world, people, oh mashallah, Ireland, because people like Irish people. Irish people are nice people. So how is Islam in Ireland? How is it? I said, well, Ireland is beautiful. Ireland is wonderful. The Irish are fantastic.
The non-Muslims.
The non-Muslims, yeah. But they say, what's the main problem when it comes to Islam in Ireland? I said, the fact that we have Muslims there. If there was no Muslims, it would be a fantastic place to live. Unfortunately, this is the reality.
A lot of people say, unfortunately, like if a lot of kind of converts or reverts, wherever they prefer, they say, had I seen Muslims before I learned about Islam, I wouldn't have become Muslim.
It's so true. We hear it all the time, but it's the reality. Because if you see the reality and you see some things that we have to go through, then that you'll see the reality of that. Subhanallah. And so it's a huge challenge for our reverts, obviously, because you see in the books certain things and you read about it, and it's amazing. Then all of a sudden,
even in the Quran, Subhanallah, the ayah, رَبَّنَا لَا تَجْعَلْنَا فِتْنَةً لِلَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا.
And that you could take that as well.
Yeah, don't make us a tribulation or a trial for the disbelieving people.
And that's the reality, because when we give dawah sometimes to non-Muslims, and they read about Islam or they hear about Islam, they talk to you about Islam, they see that makes sense.
Yeah.
They say, I could go with that. But they say if it was truly beneficial, it was truly good, why didn't it benefit you guys? Why are the Muslims in the situation there? Why this country is like that? That's country. Why are the immigrants, when they come to our countries, they're doing this and that? So this is the thing, is that they see that, and that's actually, subhanAllah, it's a beautiful example, and that we really need to think about. And any Muslim living in the West needs to always remember that ayah, that he doesn't become a fitna, a tribulation for the non-Muslims, because they see Islam through us. And I'll tell you a story, subhanAllah. When I first moved to Ireland, one of the tasks I had with one of the brothers, he asked me to come. He had, MashaAlllah, may Allah bless him, he had a former, and it was a hospital, and he actually gave the things away for charity, all of the things to Gaza. He sent it to Gaza, and he paid for that. And then he opened up his center to be a mosque, or to be an Islamic center. And then when he went for the planning permission to open it, he didn't get the hours, so he couldn't use it for Isha, we couldn't use it for Fajr. So as a masjid, or to pray in anyways, we couldn't use it as a masjid. So basically it was an information center, but obviously we're using it to pray 5 times a day, but we weren't able to use it when we opened it. And one of the main things is that we had one of the neighbors who was so against us.
Yeah.
And she was like, it's just her, she had this vendetta against Islam and Muslims. So we just, figured, astaghfirullah, this, kafir, I hate her, this is what everybody's thinking. But subhanAlllah, when we actually found out what the problem was.
Let me guess. Can I guess? It was people parking outside of a driveway.
Wallahi, it started on a parking spot.
Really?
Wallahi.
Subhanallah.
It started on a parking spot with one of the brothers who was living there next to the masjid, and he disputed with her over who had the more right to this certain parking spot. And the brother yelled at her, raised his voice to her, and then raised his hand and threatened to hit her, and she jumped back, and she was like, wow, so it escalated to that. So then what did she see? Muslim, beard, Arab guy, and she just marked all Muslims with the same color, and then later what happened, when I moved in there, she's looking at me, beard, another one of them, see my wife with the niqab and this.
He's a white one.
Yeah. So she's looking at us, but I'm generally, I try to always be nice to everyone. So I was just, hi, how you doing, this type of thing.
You didn't raise your hand though when you said hi.
Just hi, that's it, but very nice hi. But alhamdulillah, so I never had any issues with her myself, but I never actually, spoke with her. But one of the brothers who was better than me, may Allah bless him, he was living next to us, one of our neighbors, he actually started to speak to her and started to be nicer to try to, fix the situation. And he found out this story from her. She said, after meeting with you and speaking with you, she said, I've changed my mind about Muslims. And she said, SubhanAllah, she said, no, she didn't say,
Glory be to God.
SubhanAllah, that's it. She said that, that I've changed my mind about Muslims because of how nice you are, and I've seen, how Muslims really are. But your friend from your country, same Arab country, SubhanAllah, that he did this and this to me, and that's why I label all Muslims being the same. So look how now, and just how you become. Yes, and you see now how that he truly, as they said in the verse, they became a fitna for those individuals. They became a trial and tribulation for her, where his actions pushed her away from Islam. Where another brother with true Islam and good manners and being like a Muslim should be.
I think the main thing is akhlaq.
That's it.
For people around you. I mean, if it happened in England, I would maybe give some explanation, maybe about hundreds and hundreds of years of indoctrination with racist stereotype stuff. But in Ireland, I've seen that just generally non-Muslim Irish people, they don't have the same kind of stereotypes generally against Muslims. Is that a fair kind of assessment? In terms of until recently, because they've been on the receiving end of English kind of.
That's why you'll find, for example, I think the stereotypes, it is there because of the media. And I would actually find that, interestingly enough, people say, like my wife with her niqab, I think she found it was very challenging for her, obviously, but maybe it was sometimes less challenging for me than if I were to come like wearing a thobe. Because they see me and they know I'm Irish, and I'm one of them, but I'm wearing the clothes of one of them,
Saint Patrick thobe.
So they're like
green thobe.
maybe they know, right? But they don't get it. So like, and you would see them, like they would be scared, Like, oh my God, it's one of them, but he's one of us at the same time. So what's going on? Maybe it was a bit of shock. But my wife, they probably assumed she was Arab or something like this, so they wouldn't, think about this. Even one time when she was going, we had our son there. She was in the hospital. She comes up, so the lady looks at her and she's like, "Do you speak English?" And she's like, "Yes, pretty good actually." Alhamdulillah. But she assumed obviously she's not from there. So the Irish people, they're amazing. But you'll see that when, like you said, because they went through that for 800 years. So that's why you'll find that when it comes to the issue of Palestine, one of the most countries who behind Palestinian rights, they're fantastic. They're always out, demonstrating, and even I remember one politician when he won the elections as a TD, he put up the Palestinian flag, and even if you look at like some of the government, they had a meeting with the Israeli ambassador. And they roasted him, man. They really gave it to him.
Yeah, I've seen clips and stuff and viral clips. They go viral on Muslim circles.
But why is that? Because they went through the same thing. They were occupied colonized for over 800 years. So when they see what the Palestinian people are going through, they have that feeling for them. So alhamdulillah, so like the Irish, it was an amazing experience. But anyways, even with all the difficulties that I went through and all of the knives that I received in the backs.
Would you say what was the reason? Not just, one thing is bad akhlaq. That's unfortunately probably everywhere. But do you think, is there a unique issue with Muslims in the West, or maybe like disunity or sectarianism? Or
what do you mean? Why do they look at us in a negative light?
No, because someone could say, it's unfair to say the Muslims in the West will stab you in the back, or, what does that even...
You have good people
everywhere. You're a Western Muslim, right? You don't stab people in the back.
But I think a lot of times, it could come from people who came from different countries to be there. Because honestly, the masajid we have is like these monopolies on the masajid. We have a bunch of, Qaddafis ruling the masajid, who the only way they'll leave from their administrative position is if they were to. That's it. That's the only way they're going out, man. So it's just like, and they hold on to it and they fight for it, and sometimes they're like, it's a masjid.
But wouldn't the better thing to do be stay there, work hard, and try and reform that community?
You could look at it like that, but for me, honestly, when I looked at the situation, I didn't see the people who were serious enough. I've had some serious people around me who were really striving, really wanted to benefit, really wanted to gain knowledge and learn. Then I would have, been patient. But
how long did you stay in Ireland?
I stayed for 5 years. 5 years. I was there for 5.5 actually.
They say after 5 years you can have the laqab of Al-Irlandi.
Alhamdulillah. Yes, I have that anyways. From my blood, I remember one time I went in there and she's like, "What are you coming in here?" I said, "Well, I'm originally from here. I'm just coming to visit." I was used to go for visits. So, you're Irish. You look at the name, McCarthy. So, no doubt.
You're right.
They knew right away. So there's good everywhere. We have to be fair. There's a lot of good brothers and sisters who are trying to do what they can. But I think just in general in the West, the masajid, and I've spoken about this before, the masajid, they're, I think, one of the main reasons Islam doesn't progress in the West. And I have to be frank in saying that. And I look at different organizations like in the UK, which prove my point. MRDF, AIRA, as an example. If these organizations try to do the same thing through a masjid, through a committee and administration of a masjid, would it have ever happened? No way in the world. They would start, and then they would have differences between them, and then this committee and that committee, and this person kicks that person out, and then it becomes a war, and then it becomes the Pakistanis together, and then it becomes the Arabs together, and it becomes this, and it becomes all of these crises that we always have in the masajid in the West, and then Islam doesn't progress. But when these organizations separate themselves from the masajid and focus on the goal at hand, we're talking about tarbiyah and ta'leem for MRDF, and education and making tarbiyah of the youth. We're talking about giving dawah to non-Muslims from Aira. You'll see that they were able to really.
But do you think there's maybe an upward trajectory in terms of mosques being kind of taken over by the younger generation?
I think that there's several things that happen. One of them is that they've seen like I saw some brothers in America, they did something that was pretty good, not being like full-time imams, where you're your own boss. You might have an agreement with the masjid where you give khutbahs, you give lectures, but you have an agreement where it's maham, it's certain tasks which you have to do, where you don't become their property, because this always becomes the problem. Because when you'll find when you become an imam in a masjid, they want to move you by remote control. Say this, don't say this. Say this, don't say that. They told me about one masjid in California that if you go then you speak there, you can't speak about alcohol, and you can't speak about, I believe it was interest and these type of things. So why is this? Because they said that the people who fund the masjid and built the masjid, they own
tobacco lobby.
They own
alcohol arms and tobacco lobby,
liquor stores, and what do you call them, the off license, and
it's bad for business.
And so it's bad for business if you say, and it can hurt their feelings because they're the ones paying for the masjid. I said, well, honestly, if I was there, I wouldn't want to be in a masjid like that. The ones who are paying for it are from this. So, you see the problems that come from the masajid time and time again, and history shows us. But there is, alhamdulillah, there is a change. And I think, like you said, I think the youth, even I think a lot of the chachas and the uncles that we have there, may Allah bless them, because we have to be honest. I always tell the people that, because you might have heard what I just said, which is like, oh God, the masjid, they're holding us back. That I mean something bad about, these people, I do believe a lot of them, they believe that what they're doing is good. Like we had this one.
And also they're from an era that.
From an era, and also from a place. Don't forget, because they don't understand. For example, some of the, some of the functions that we have in the masjid in the West. It's not really a masjid. It's a community center. It's a place for gathering. It's a place to hang out, which is very similar to the masjid of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But the ones who are coming from back home, they don't have that mentality. Them, it's 5 daily prayers, close the masjid. That's it. I even remember one. He was like the big, troublemaker that we had in Ireland. But I remember, like, for one thing, he wouldn't let you have a cup of tea in the masjid because you could spill it on the rug, and then he said, I paid for the rug by that as well, And he said, I'm not going to let people ruin it, and these people need discipline. He said, my father was from the military in Pakistan, and I know discipline, and this is what these Muslims need is discipline. So he used to cause a lot of problems for the people, not realizing that, and you want to encourage people to come to the masjid, not to run them away from the masjid. So I think a lot of them have started to realize, especially when they see the issue of the youth and how far they're going away from Islam, and they need to bring them back into the masajid. So they start to make things more youth-friendly. They start to become more open-minded. And that, as you said, with the youth coming up, and they're going to be taking over soon. And some of them already in the administrations and being part of it.
Very sad. I think a brother I know who's involved in youth work, he said only 1% of masjid in the UK have an active youth program.
It shows you. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, he does a lot of research on this.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Very sad.
I wouldn't doubt it. And that's the reality. But inshallah.
How do we fix it? I mean, you have your own Dawa kind of aims and objectives. You're living in I think in Turkey now.
Yeah.
What about us in the UK? Once I get off this desert island, I'm going back. How do you have any kind of ideas for trying to fix this problem?
Well, I mean, I think like the organizations like MRDF, who are doing their own thing and are having a positive impact, the masajid want them to come in now. And this is, you guys can see this. Now the masajid asks you guys to come in for an event. And you'll see, for example, even like, the brothers who are doing like Night Mania and these type of things. Some of them, they saw the good work that was being done there. So they start to, mashallah, bring the people in as well for these events. So there is change happening. I even believe that, some of the things that happened with with the non-Muslims, what was happening in the, where they realized they had to build bridges. Because what happened, a lot of our communities, they came and they kind of cut themselves off and isolated themselves. And they live in their little pockets inside of the UK or in France or anywhere in the Western world. But they realized after 9/11 and after the things that were happening and how Islam was being betrayed in the media, they said, look, we have to open our doors. We have to build bridges. This is something I've been saying for years. Because we always had the issues of our, the chachas coming and saying, haram, kafir in the masjid and all this. In the sunnah of the Prophet, they used to come into the masjid and they would learn about Islam being in the masjid. Let them come in, let them see Islam, let them see the Muslims, let them understand, open up our doors. Now people are doing that. But maybe they were kind of forced into it, but nonetheless, I think it's brilliant, and it's going to be, and that has had a huge impact. And I believe it's raining now, so I think we have to stop. And everybody's looking around except for me. I'm like,
that is that's thunder, I believe.
Allah Akbar, yes, alhamdulillah.
Thunder stranded on a desert island, so I hope we don't get struck by any lightning. But alhamdulillah, it's beautiful.
There's actually not too many clouds, but there's it's starting to rain.
There's one right on top of us.
That's where it's coming from. Because if you look
follows me around.
If you look, there's none there.
MashaAlllah. People at home probably can't see any, but gonna get a look on the sky the other way, then wow.
Yeah, maybe inshallah it'll pass, inshallah.
But shall we try and find a way off this island? Are you good at building rafts?
Inshallah.
Yeah.
We'll swim for it, inshallah.
Okay. You have to turn the cameras off for this bit.
Bismillah.
2 hours later.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. We managed to get out of the desert island. We kind of made a makeshift raft.
Aloha. Now we're in paradise.
We landed on this other island, but unfortunately it's ruled by one of those mosque uncles. And he heard what we were saying, and he kind of locked us up in this prisoner of war camp. So help us
Alhamdulillah.
this message.
Just to wrap up on that topic, alhamdulillah. There's a lot of good that happened in the masajid as well. And always we say, because we're talking about the mentality. The mentality is different. Coming from a different era, coming from a different place. And when they came to the West, they established the masajid, and that's a great blessing. And
in London, for example, one uncle was telling me in the 60s, they had to, there was like one Jum'ah in London, one halal meat place.
That's it.
And,
so what they've done,
a lot of racism. They had to kind of protect themselves.
Exactly. So even if there are some mistakes that were made, even if they didn't revolve maybe fast enough with the times, we still have to give credit where credit is due.
It's easy to belittle
and say Jazakumullah khair, and may Allah bless you for what you guys have done. But also we need them to realize it's time to to pass the baton and let the youth come up and do their work. Even in one of the lectures that I have, and I'm not going to go in detail here, but about empowering the youth and giving many examples. If you look like the main ones who used to teach the Quran, majority from the youth. The main ones who narrate the hadith, also from the youth. So yeah. If you look at the
Sahaba?
Yeah, the 7 main narrators from the Sahaba, all of them were from the youth. And the oldest one from them at the time of the death of the Prophet ﷺ was Abu Huraira, who was about 33. Jabir was about 28. The rest were either teens or in their early 20s. So all of them were from the youth.
A few moments later.
So I have some technical difficulties, I think. It's break time. Let's have a bit of water.
Sorry, bro. Only drink Evian. Only Evian, bro. This is a MRDF inside joke, huh? From one of our meetings when I came from traveling, and they offered me water, and after we had read the article, alhamdulillah, about the business class, yani superstar sheikhs, huh?
You're saying are you partial to the old business class experience?
Let me tell you the truth, man. I've tried, on both sides, economy and business class, and I do understand the business class because, and especially someone, I'm a big guy, So when you travel business class, you arrive fresh. Whether you were doing some work, you're relaxing, kicking back, you can lay back. When I come in economy, I'm all squished up.
Or was that after you tried business class?
Yeah,
was it just normal?
No. I used to struggle all the time, and I need like a day to recover sometimes. I need a day to recover.
I suppose it depends on a really long flight as well.
Yeah, longer flights are the worst ones, obviously.
I remember they upgraded us for free in Hajj. We're going to Hajj, and whatever, they had overbooked or something. They said 2 of you can go business class, so we went. And when I went through the other one,
a fresh Hajj, arrived. Yeah.
When I went through the curtain to go to the back to meet someone, I was like, oh my God, how are you guys living? There were like 3 in a row, and I was like, oh my God, are you okay? Can I get you something?
Something very interesting that happened
with
me.
Your norm just changes then.
It's true, and because like now when I go in economy, even one time I remember I got bumped down because I tried to upgrade in this and it didn't work. So I was like, and it was a long flight. And it's like, how am I going to do it? And I used to do it all the time, but it becomes more difficult. But wallahi, honestly, to be fair, you arrive fresh. You arrive fresh, you're sharp, you can get straight to work, straight to lecturing. So that does save some time, it saves some effort, it saves energy. So there is benefit in it, honestly. But obviously we're talking about some differences when it might be, just a small difference in the fare. But even like, for example, Sheikh Yusuf Estes, I remember he was, he only travels business class because of his health. He's old.
It's understandable.
So when he was going one time from Doha to Dubai, in the good old days, obviously, before there were problems.
Cut that out.
Yes, subhanAllah. May Allah help the situation, subhanAllah. That he was traveling and it cost 8,000 riyals one way just to go. And it's a 40-minute flight. And the economy was 800. So he said himself, he said, I can't. No, the brother said, no, don't, Sheikh, your health and this. And he said, I can't do it. He said, that's, it's money that we could use in something else. So he refused. As he was getting on the plane, he was walking through business class. There was an imam of a masjid, a Qatari brother. He saw Sheikh Yusuf as he gave up and kissed him on his head. And he saw he was going back to economy. He said, no, Allah. He said, by Allah, you'll sit in my seat. So he sit in the business class. So the Sheikh refused to waste money, which could be used for the da'wah, for this flight. So alhamdulillah, and Allah blessed him with the business class anyways for that, alhamdulillah. And something happened to me very interesting. It was a very important tarbiyah lesson for myself. And it's very important that you remind yourself of this. Because like you said, sometimes you kind of look down like,
like you start to believe your own hype.
These even though like, a lot of times you're not even paying for the ticket yourself, subhanAllah, but you look like the peasants of economy and stuff for Allah, So I remember we were coming from...
That's a good snippet to take out, the peasants of economy.
That's it. You're looking down. So, and when you come in from Doha, we're traveling on Qatar Airways. It was me and Sheikh Mohammed Salah. And I was coming from Sudan, he was coming from Egypt, and we met up in Doha, and then we took the same flight together to Singapore. And we came back on the same flight, and he obviously returned to Egypt, and me to Sudan. So in Doha, you have your own private line for the business class. And when we were in Singapore, coming back, it was like everyone in the same line.
It's a bit higher as well, so you can look down on the...
the peasants. They go like this.
These guys are getting vexed.
Alhamdulillah. So going in, it's two different places, two different ramps and two different entrances. But coming back from Singapore, they put us all in the same line. And I was very tired. I wanted to sleep before I went back. I had work the next day when I arrived. So I said, why don't they just open up for us so we can go in quick? And he said, no, wait. He said, this is good for us. He said, this is tarbiyah. It's training us. It's reminding us to remain simple. And he said, we always have to remind ourselves that even when Allah gives us blessings like this and makes it easy for us, that we stay in the mutawaddi', that we stay humble and we don't let it come to us. And he told me an amazing story, subhanAllah. He said that one of his objectives when he was in America, he said he wanted to buy a Lexus. He really, really wanted a Lexus. And he said that I saved up my money, and then I bought the new Lexus. And he said one day, he said, I went to the bank, and he said, I took out my key, and I proudly, he said, I put it up on the counter. Look at the L. Look at the L. It's like he was honored to have that L. And he said, when I felt how it really made me feel and how it entered my heart, he said, I knew I had to cure it, so I went and I sold the car right away. Allahu Akbar. He said, I sold the car so it wouldn't have an impact on me and who I was and affect me. So, I mean, this is the thing. When you have these type of things, a lot of times, wallah, it does happen where it immediately goes to your nafs. So you have to be careful and you have to balance it out.
Assalamu alaikum guys, me again, reminding you to head over to islam21c.com/donate to keep the lights on Islam 21c. We pride ourselves on being independent and being funded by the grassroots community.
So what do you do about, your kids, for example? Do you, because I have the issue that I don't want them to get used to luxury, but you still want to give them good things,
So you do like we've seen some of our brothers do. They travel in business class and put their kids in economy, huh? Actually, my wife asked me, she said, what would happen if we're on a flight, we're traveling, we want to travel with you, and they send you a business class ticket? Because that does happen sometimes. And I said, don't worry, if it does happen, Habibti, I said, I'll let you sit in business class, and I'll sit with the kids in economy for you. Alhamdulillah.
MashaAlllah.
So, I mean, obviously, if you're with the family, if
you some
can't...
marriage tips as well here.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah. So if you can't afford it, actually, that would be a good gift, because that would last for a long time.
Is that what they call, was that what marital arts is? You're a marital arts expert.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah.
Was it martial arts?
Martial arts, a bit of both.
Bad at spelling.
Alhamdulillah.
But Gordon Ramsay does that. Gordon Ramsay, the famous chef in the UK. He had a tough upbringing, whatever, but now he's, completely rich. But him and his wife, when they go holiday, apparently, that's what I heard, they travel first class, but the kids are in economy. He doesn't want them used to, you know.
It's a good lesson for the kids. It's a good training for the kids, and that's something very interesting you mentioned. Because even if you look, for example, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, these guys who created these devices which now control our children, they only let their kids be on the iPads and these things for about 20 minutes a day, because they knew the dangers of them getting addicted or being on it, and they knew the real benefit was in them reading and doing things in the traditional way. So you'll see that we need to benefit from these lessons. If these are the ones who made it, and this is how they were with their children, that's how they should be as well.
Experts in the field generally. The former chief editor of Wired magazine, famous tech magazine, he said, "My kids accuse me and my wife of being fascist when it comes to tech. Like, why do we have so many rules and our friends don't have those rules? You know,
exactly.
But
sometimes what happens with parenting, what you have to understand, is sometimes the parents, they give in and they let things slide. Like for example,
it's tempting to just give them.
Yeah, like for example, when it comes to you have obese kids. Why are they obese? They say, well, they only eat the junk food we give them. Then don't feed them. If they have to make a choice. And then you're the one in charge. You're the parent. They have to realize you're going to eat what's good for you. You can eat. And when I change my diet, you can have a lot of healthy foods. Even like we have healthy cakes. People have come to my house and I've shown them some cupcakes that my wife makes. And I was like, there's no flour, no sugar. Like, how is it made? Peanut butter and it's peanut butter and banana is the mix. We have almond flour things with honey or natural ingredients. So these type of things, we make cakes and it's very delicious. The kids can have these alternatives, but it's your job. You're the parent. You're the one who places the rules. They have to follow the rules. That doesn't mean, like for example, we come out to a resort, we bring our families. They have fun options as well. But they have to understand that you're doing is what is in the benefit for them. When I grew up, wallahi, my stepmother, I loved her and hated her at the same time because she was strict. I had the love for her because she did a lot of good for me. But there was a bit, of animosity towards her because she was so strict. But after I became Muslim, after I became a parent, after I became a bit older, and like we said, learning from experience, I told her, thank you very much for all the things that you used to do for me. You were strict, but I said, I know now I understand it was in my best interest. It was good for me. So alhamdulillah. And I
read a nice quote somewhere that by the time you realize your father was right, you've got a son telling you you're wrong.
Exactly. That's exactly what it was. I think that's what taught us, alhamdulillah. Yeah, so this is alhamdulillah. These are the things we need to install in our children from a young age that they understand. And like going back to the issue of experience and evolving, we're speaking recently about some of the du'at that they've gone through changes. They're not the same people that we used to know. What people have to realize, especially the youth, because the youth are very judgmental. The youth are very, shoot first and ask question later, basically type. You have to realize that with ilm, with knowledge, and with experience, you have to change. If you don't change, there's a problem. Imam al-Shafi'i, and he's Imam al-Shafi'i. He had the madhab al-qadim and madhab al-jadid. He had his old madhab and his new madhab. That's because he learned more. He changes opinions. The more you learn, you're going to change your opinion. You're going to change stances. A lot of things you might have learned in the beginning, and then once you study it in more detail, you see that there's a difference of opinion. Perhaps the other opinion was actually stronger. So people are going to change and they're going to evolve. That doesn't mean, and this is if I want to make this clear, that doesn't mean that we leave our principles. Yeah. But you're going to change. And all people, even myself, I'm not the same person I was 2 years ago. Even maybe 1 year ago, I'm different now. I'm not the same person that I was 5 years ago, 10 years ago. You mean
like in terms of Islamic opinions?
Islamic opinions, the approach, Dawa approach, and many things.
What do you think has changed?
Well, I mean,
you were mentioning that you're doing a master's now in Istanbul.
And doing it. And so now what happened with this is I tried before to start my master's in Islamic studies, but always traveling, always involved in conferences, international conferences, what have you. I wasn't able to be consistent. Therefore, I never continued down the path. So I saw that I was, in my age now, in my 40s, mid 40s, that if I don't do it now, I'm not going to do it. And if I don't do it now, there's not going to be actually a benefit in even having it and doing it. And I also, because I got the desire recently to start doing some writings and in English. So I said, getting back into researching and this type of thing, it's going to help me, inshallah, get back on the
publish some of the stuff on Islam21c.
Yeah, bismillah, alhamdulillah. It's good, inshallah. This could be my platform, short little articles. Inshallah, bismillah, alhamdulillah. It'd be a good start. So alhamdulillah, I went back, to studying now. And, but we talk about the different
schools of thought, different approaches.
To be honest, it's very beneficial to study and to look at it from a different school of thought, to look at, to hear from different opinions. Because obviously, before we might have studied just refuting the different schools. So now we're seeing their outlook as well. But something very, I don't know if I want to call it interesting, but a reality that I found is that there's a lot of hate out there. Because people always look, for example, at the Salafis, are extreme, or those who have that type of, that they're hardcore against the others. But the Ash'aris and the Sufis are the same against the Salafis. Once you hear from them as well. So people have a lot of hate towards other groups. This is the reality. Whenever you hear from another group, it's always smashing the other ones, always belittling, always talking bad about them. And subhanAllah, I remember I was speaking one time with one brother, and we were talking about if each group were to follow, what is the slogan of that group. They said, we wish that, the brother said, I wish that an ikhwani would be an ikhwani. Because what is the principle that they have? That they say that we come together and what we agree upon and we differ. They call it the golden principle. And what we differ upon, that we let it slide, basically. We push that aside and we come together what we agree upon. But when dealing with many of the people who follow the way of the ikhwan, they're not like that. Many of them, it's either our way or the highway, subhanAllah. And many of the, in the West, many of the problems I faced, unfortunately, were from these individuals. But, and if you look, for example, as well, even some Tabliki brothers or Sufi brothers, that they talk about this whole, love and these nice things and all of this. But then when it comes to the people who disagree with them, you find them smashing them as well and so talking bad about them.
Kind of fanatics in each group.
And also,
and
even what the Salaf said, if you look like the Salafi approach, Imam Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah, he mentioned, he said, كان السلف أعلم الناس بالحق أرحم الناس بالخلق. He said that they were the most knowledgeable people when it came to the truth and the most merciful people when it came to dealing with people. But you see many of the Salafi brothers today that they might have some knowledge based on the Quran and Sunnah, but they're the most harsh in dealing with the people. So that goes back to the issue. We said if each person were to follow these principles, you find it would be much, the interactions that we deal with one another. Don't forget the brotherhood. And something very interesting that Ibn Taymiyyah mentioned, that he said you can't force someone to follow the opinion that you reach. He said you might know 100% that what you reach, what you've come to, it's the haqq, it's the truth. But he said you can't force someone else to follow it. And you have to realize that your brother might have reached that on ijtihad. And I've sat down with people who follow other creeds, other beliefs, and they actually believe this is true. They honestly believe it. This is what they've learned from their mashaykh, and so many scholars have written it, and this is what they believe. So it's important that we, even
and
if
what you agree on is far bigger, greater, and more important and more crucial than what you disagree.
And I don't necessarily mean some people say okay, all the differences sweep under the rug. I mean if I'm speaking, if I'm lecturing, if I disagree with something or there's an ideology or methodology I think is wrong, I can say that, but in a way that's suitable. You don't have to bash the person to get to, because what is the objective? Is it for me to win? Is it for me to be superior and to beat the other guy down with some Khabib, ground and pound on my enemies? That's your brother in the end. You want the haqq. And Imam al-Shafi'i, what did he used to say? He said, I wish the haqq would be with the person who was debating with me. So now the objective is for the haqq, for the truth to be spread, for all of us to be followers of the haqq and follow the truth. Therefore, if we differ, we want to show them in a nice way, in a proper way. This is what the Quran says, this is what the Sunnah says, this is what the Salaf said, and this is the correct way. If we differ at the end and you don't come together, like you said, there's still going to be a lot of things we're going to agree upon, especially in the West. Like I said, here, because here we might differ, because some of our brothers are like, okay, sweep the differences under the rugs. The differences are there. Let's not hide them and be naive. That we actually, we can talk about them. But like I said, it doesn't have to be in a smashing or in a hurtful or harmful way. Because and right away what happens, even many of the du'at, and this is actually another important thing when it comes to giving da'wah to non-Muslims, we can mention, is the old school way of giving da'wah to non-Muslims. It started to change, alhamdulillah, with the new approaches. But many times is that we were so happy with some of our Muslim, debaters. I was looking for the word as preachers, but debaters is where it is. Who are debaters? They would come and they would smash, the non-Muslims and expose their falsehood. And for us, it's like, the haqq is going this, but this actually goes against the teachings of the Quran. And I remember, subhanAllah, that's one of them. But also, if you look at what did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say about not cursing those. ولا تسبوا الذين يدعون من دون الله. Why? فيسب الله عدوا بغير العلم. Do not slander or do not curse those who make dua to other than Allah. What do these people do? They committed shirk, the most major sin, the greatest sin.
Don't diss things they regard as sacred.
And then here, so he said, do not curse them. And they've committed this great crime. Why? Because they will come back and they will falsely curse at Allah out of ignorance. And this is what happens when you attack someone's religion, when you attack someone's madhab, they automatically grab tighter to it and hold firmer to it, and they don't let go. So the truth, even if you're coming with the truth, you're coming with haqq bombs, sending it to them. and they're not accepting it. They won't accept it. So we have to be, and he was talking about evolving as individuals to understand that how to get the haqq out in a way that people will accept it, because this is the objective at the end.
There has been a trend sometimes of du'at when they kind of get older, or they maybe come across something that was outside of their inner circle, or the bubble maybe that they were in. To be frank, they used to be in a bubble maybe, and they can't come out of that bubble. It sometimes shocks the system, and they sometimes kind of adopt an almost an argument from novelty, that anything new I learn, it must be better or must be superior to what I learned before. Whereas, it's a fallacious argument in its essence. Just because something is new and somebody was exposed to something that they didn't know before, it doesn't mean that's better or that's stronger or that's more appropriate necessarily, right?
Yeah, that's a very good point, very important point. And that's why I said at the beginning, that doesn't just because
you might have been on a mainstream opinion, a safer opinion, or more a stronger opinion. I don't say that, but before, and then you learn
exactly. But that's what evolving doesn't mean that you leave your foundation or fundamentals. And for me, AbdurRaheem McCarthy, I'm the same guy I was 15, 20 years ago when it comes to my foundation.
You just mellowed out a bit.
No, actually, but it's just the experience. Experience, and it changes you.
It's dealing with people, dealing with real life.
Yeah, that's it. Reality changes you. I mean, a lot of the things. And if you look at, just like in modern school systems today, they don't prepare the kids for the real world. Just as the universities we study in, they don't prepare people for the real world. The people who come back in the West, we're not prepared to give dawah in the West. We don't know how to give dawah.
It's a university system, really, I think.
Yeah, it's a different. But even, I'm saying, the system, they need to make some modifications to it, and how the studies are done, and the things that you really need when you go back to the West.
Yeah.
And
I think I read a quote. I think it was attributed to Mark Twain. He said, "University is where the lecturer's notes get transferred into the students' notes without passing through the minds of either."
Yes, very good point. Mashallah.
And some people
these things need to be fixed, and I think some of the older du'at now, perhaps it's upon us, or even the ones who are older, is to prepare these type of things for our brothers who go out and they study the things that they're going to face, because sometimes even coming back, the shock and the change in the system, some don't deal with it well, and coming back into society, because it's a different world. I think, but maybe now I think with the internet as well, it is changing a bit.
I think that's a good thing about a structured program like Sabil.
Yeah.
I mean, the kind of radical thing about that was it was pushing a manhaj, a kind of paradigm, a theory, a methodology of how to approach things on a holistic scale. So when you do end up finding something, radically different, you don't shake. You don't, you know where it goes, and you know how to disagree with someone kind of amicably. That was a real kind of powerful thing.
That's what people. That's what a lot of students, when they study and they come home, they're actually missing that. SubhanAllah.
Yeah, SubhanAllah.
Because sometimes when you study, I think what it is, if they talk about being open-minded and things like that, you have to understand there are different opinions. And I can give you something like very small as an example. So like the brothers and sisters who are listening or watching, they might be thinking, what is an example? Something like when it comes to how you wear your trousers, and how were we raised?
On my legs.
What is the opinion? The opinion is what? Is that above the ankles.
Yeah. And
this, for us, we learned this like it was, because the hadith are very strong when it comes to having it under the ankles. But this is still something, even if you see the trousers I'm wearing today, we call them trousers because of you guys.
Trousers, they're not pants.
Yeah, we actually call them pants, but I've become a bit British in some of the things, living with you guys for 5 years. Huh? This is in my trousers above, American guys are like, what is he talking? Why does he call them trousers? So
we can have some subtitles for American.
That's it. Huh? Above the ankles, I still do, alhamdulillah, because it's from the sunnah, and the hadith are very severe. But if you do look at the majority of scholars who say otherwise, who say that it's something that's makruh, it's something this, but that's just an example of that. When we first started, we didn't know that. But when you start to read more, you find out, okay, there is differences of opinion, these issues, and that helps you broaden your horizon. And like I said, even in dealing with ikhtilaf and the differences, and not to be harsh, because at the end we want the haqq to spread. That's the objective, and that's one of the things we talk about when the sitting we have with Sheikh Husseini. It's one of the key things is not being harsh, not coming off that way.
What kind of advice would you give to like a young da'i coming out straight out of Medina University or Azhar or whatever, and he's come to you, and you know, what advice do you give them?
The same thing is that they benefit from the elders who have been, because the ones we've been through it now, we've made the mistakes being out in the field. So there's no need for them to come back and make the same mistakes. Also, there needs to be, and you're talking about a structured program, you have a Sabil. There needs to be a program that we design now for people like this at that level. At that level, when they come back, that you can have like a month course. How do you do counseling?
Yeah,
this is something.
absolutely.
It's not something we studied. And some of the family issues that we face. And
the cliche is, you know, the brother he studies for many years. He understands you know, maybe a madhab inside and out, and a lot of statements of the scholars, a lot of, you know, hadith he memorizes and so forth. However, then when he comes, he's not teaching durus. He's got someone's kids run away. He's trying to counsel them. Someone divorce issues, drug addiction,
pornography. How they do all of these major things that the people are dealing with today. How
you think they're not adequately preparing the young du'at in the universities?
The thing is, right, as of now, it's not there. As of now, they don't have these type of subjects. So there could be some courses that are taught, but generally speaking, it's not there. It needs to be there. And I think each country, and for example, maybe what we have in America or in the UK and the West, you might have something different for brothers who are going back to some of the, you know, former Russian republics or something like that. There's certain things. Each society is different, but the student needs to be ready for that society that he's going back to.
Absolutely.
And if it's something, for example, we had certain like committees for the students in Medina, like the American students or the British students, that maybe that's something they study in the last year there, or at least if it's not studied there, then it's a course that's available for them, intensive course, you know, 1 week, 1 month, whatever it might be. As soon as they come back, where they go through the things and they learn these tools that
are needed in their communities,
and to polish things off, because obviously the traditional way of studying all that, that's still the way. That's still the way that's where the barakah and the blessings is. However, we need to give them, like we said, to polish it off with the things they need, and how to deliver it, and when they come back, inshallah.
I mean, in terms of like, for example, in the Western world, at least I don't know about maybe Muslim majority countries, but someone who's been very kind of instrumental in a lot of, at least from the perspective looking on social media and stuff, someone who's been very maybe effective in getting young people to be proud of their Islam and Muslimness has been Khabib, the UFC fighter.
And actually, one of my khutbahs, I don't know if you saw it or not, actually, I gave a khutbah some time before
15 points.
54.
54 points. 54
wow.
I obviously didn't watch it.
One of the it's a lot of points, but it's only like 25 minutes or 30 minutes, something like that.
Okay.
So basically, what
point every
every minute.
30 seconds.
I went very fast with it, but actually it ended up being 56 at the end. Actually, I actually added 2, and I said I could keep going. Because honestly, I think one of the things that, like you said, how he inspired the youth, how you see his attachment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you see that the money and the fame didn't change him, he stayed very simple.
And just being, having integrity, you know, you're being offered all of these things, and you're saying, no, this is haram.
So he's been a great inspiration, and that's why I focused on that. One of the clips I gave before the fight, before the Conor fight, was actually, it's one of those controversial titles, Why I Hate Conor McGregor. And then I put, obviously, because I'm a Muslim who loves Jesus, and this it went widespread. I mean, on different platforms. If you add it up, you know, I don't know how many, 600,000-700,000 views or more on different platforms. On my channel, it's like 109 or something like that. A lot of negative comments as well on most of them. Even some of the Irish saying you're not Irish, because my accent is not Irish. But if you look at my name, you can see where I am. Even McGregor, by the way, he's not Irish. He's Scottish.
Really?
Yeah, the McGregor clan is not. I mean, he grew up in Ireland, no doubt about that. He might have Irish, some Irish parents, I'm sure. Maybe some of the women that his clan married were Irish. So there's Irish blood, I'm sure. I mean, I assume so, anyways. I don't know his lineage. But McGregor clan, it's not even Irish. It's Scottish, you know. So the point is that obviously my lineage is Irish, even though I grew up in America. But the fact I didn't speak like I was Irish, they didn't. So some of them they attacked me in the comments as well.
That sounds pretty authentic.
That I'm not.
You've been practicing.
Yeah, I lived there for.
Yeah. You want to do the rest of the podcast with the accent?
Oh, I can try to do my British accent as well. You know.
I can try and do a Irish accent. You want to buy a laptop?
The funny thing is that in some of the errors there is that. The accent, we can't even understand it ourselves a lot of the times. You know? Like when I was in Cork, that's where my tribe is from, but I had a very difficult time understanding them sometimes. Their accent was very heavy, mashallah.
So you're saying about the...
so the Khabib point is that, I mean, or this clip, it went viral, obviously. And it's sometimes, you know, you look at that, you know, when you talk about controversial issues or you bring those type of titles, people watch it more. But if you come with something, knowing Allah and things that actually you need more, you find people, unfortunately, they're not watching them, they're not benefiting from these type of things. The Khabib lecture, I went in detail because of the things you mentioned and the influence that he had and the good things that we saw from him. And I said in the beginning, I said, look, I'm not going to get into the issue of MMA and these type of fighting, UFC, halal, haram, hitting in the face. I said that's between him and Allah. But I said we don't need to negate or reject the good that the brother comes with. And it's also a very important principle is that you might have someone who has any shortcomings or has mistakes, but he has benefits and we don't want to benefit. We just completely
condemn him.
Condemn him, and throw him out because of a mistake or something he did. And we do this even with the du'a a lot as well, don't we?
Yeah.
As soon as someone who has, mashallah, he's a brilliant da'i and he's doing all this good for the ummah. He made a mistake, he made an opinion. I remember that in my community, some of the used to be followers, they turned their guns against me and they made me into a mubtadi'. I became a mubtadi'. Why did I become a person of bid'ah in their eyes? Because they said I called to celebrate National Hijab Day, and which actually I didn't. But what happened is, class, I'm over now.
Yeah,
clip that out,
Yeah.
And it's through.
You didn't tell me that we're gonna have some innovators here. That's
Bismillah.
would have brought some birthday cake.
Yeah, subhanAllah. So what? So what they said that, Sheikh AbdurRaheem called to National Hijab Day, celebrate this is bid'ah, because Sheikh al-Munajjid on Islam Q&A said that it's a bid'ah, so therefore I'm calling it bid'ah, and I became what? Automatically a person of bid'ah. All the good, all the lessons I used to do, all I used to attend.
Therefore, and they presented Sheikh Salih Munajjid said AbdurRaheem McCarthy is a mubtadi'.
That's it, and I'm gone, I'm finished, So, but actually what had happened,
quite convincing argument.
if you look, but unfortunately this is how the youth are. This is how narrow-minded they are.
Some youth.
Even though alhamdulillah, one of them did come back and apologize and realize that he made a mistake, and especially when I explained my stance and I explained what it was that happened. There was a university professor in our area in Waterford in Ireland that she used to bring her. She used to teach religious studies. So she would bring her groups to the masjid for a tour to visit us and to sit with us and for me to talk about Islam. She invited me to come into the university and speak about Islam. It's a great opportunity, alhamdulillah. She was very supportive of the street Dawa that we established there. She was also very supportive of this as well. And
sounds more supportive than the Muslims.
Yeah, exactly. Go back to what we said in the beginning, mashallah. Yeah. She was on her Twitter, telling people to come out and learn about Islam in the streets there in Waterford. Wow. She was a very nice lady, mashallah. So she asked me, and look at the adab sometimes that people have and the manners. She said, is it okay if we hold an event for the hijab day? And she said, because we don't want it to, we don't know how you feel about it on this. I said, if that's something you want to do, a hijab program, I said, do it.
As long as I don't have to wear one.
I said, bismillah. She said, can you, and we want you to come and give a talk. I said, as for that, I said, no. I said, but we'll send a Irish sister who is a Muslim sister who wears hijab for her to talk about hijab. Because if I come on one of those mullahs, extremists who's forcing the women to wear hijab, it doesn't come off right,
So you told a sister to give a lecture in front of a mixed audience?
It was mixed. Yeah, it was in a university. It was a mixed audience, true. But once again, and here comes back to the issue of مصالح المفاسد.
Refutation coming soon.
That's it. The PDF will be available soon. 45 pages refuting AbdurRaheem McCarthy, the innovator. Huh?
Double-spaced.
That's it. Huh? Allah Akbar. And so he...
For handwritten annotations.
That's it. Huh? So you have to go back to the issue of the masalih and the mafasid. Yeah. And this is something that people don't understand, is that when you're someone who's an authority, and even when we talk about the rulers and the rulers of the countries, bro, if you're sitting on that chair and you're in charge, things change.
Yeah.
The situation that you're in is not like this. We're sitting back here on this resort talking about, these, rulers.
Anytime someone gets into any position, they got stuff to consider.
It's challenging, and people sometimes don't realize the challenges that we face. Dealing with the authorities, dealing with this, and it's a lot of, it's very, very challenging. So anyways, I personally felt that there was a benefit of her giving the talk about hijab. And we made a hijab booth as well for the non-Muslim ladies to learn about hijab. We gave them pamphlets.
How to tie one.
And they actually had them,
workshop.
Try on the hijab and stuff like that. Yeah. It was brilliant, worked out. And the RTE came, Irish Times came. It was on the front page in Ireland. It was on the main TV channels in Ireland. And we didn't even think it would be that big, but it went viral. And you had the sisters, with the hijab. You had even we sent some niqabi sisters. Said, talk to them, ask them why they wear niqab. Don't ask me, the mullah, who was sitting back, oppressing the women. Even now my wife, when she travels, by the way, when we travel, we come in if there's a man in the immigration, one time I said, can you call a woman? He looked at me like, oppressor, So I said, look, next
he
time.
He said, no, for me.
Yeah. I said, next time, you ask. Because I said, you're the one who chose to wear niqab. Say, can you please bring a man? It's not. So that's what she does, alhamdulillah. That goes off better. So when the sisters talked about the hijab, it had a huge impact. It was on the front page of the Irish Times, on the RTE, then Irish news channels. And we got support from the Irish community. They were coming up to our sisters saying, we support you with your hijab. So it had a huge impact. But this was something now, maybe a bit controversial, maybe this. But we weren't calling to celebrate the hijab day. It was an event they wanted to do. And we saw it as an opportunity to give dawah from the Muslim side and for the sisters to explain.
It's not exactly an Eid, is it?
Yeah, that's it. And it was totally different, but it had a huge impact in this. Yeah. And at the end of the day, even if I was wrong, does that change?
It's an implementation of the maslahah.
That's it. I mean, that's what I saw, being the one the imam of the masjid in that community, that there was a benefit for it, and it came out to be a huge benefit. It was correct with the stance. And I even said to them, I said, look, that Sheikh al-Munajjid, may Allah free him and help him in a situation. But I said, even if we were to speak to him now directly and ask him, I said, you would find, and I think that you would see that he probably would agree with me. I think he would, because the situation is different. You can't come with a fatwa you find online and just implement it on the ground. Sometimes in the West, it doesn't work all the time.
Ironically, that that's going against so many other rulings of fatwa and knowing the consequences and so forth.
And the thing is that people don't even know the sources of it. They don't even know the issue. They don't know about usul al-fiqh. They don't know about qawa'id fiqhiyya, and they want to come and implement these fatwas they find online, not understanding how to implement them.
So they refuted you about that. What did you get any flack for kind of praising Khabib and that kind of stuff?
No, alhamdulillah, I didn't get anything. I mean, some people might have felt, that maybe it's not the place to talk about. It was khutbah al-Jum'ah and some of that. I mean, not many people. I think many people were kind of inspired. People felt good, And once again, it's the Muslim beating down the one who. But actually, when we mentioned in the thing about why we hated Connor, is because what he said derogatory about Isa alayhi salam, what he said about Jesus.
Assalamu alaikum guys, last reminder I promise. Head over to islam21c.com/donate to help this movement get to the next level. So we have genuine, high quality media articulating Islam in the 21st century and developing confident Muslims impacting the world for the better.
Ironically, and after what he said about Jesus alayhi salam, I said to the brothers, remember the story of Titanic? They said no one can sink it, not even God. The first time they went out, subhanallah, they saw who could sink it, subhanAllah.
When somebody challenges,
that's it.
Allah.
When he called himself a god and he said he could whoop, Jesus, a'udhu billah, what he said about him, and I said he's going to start his downfall. And sure enough, in the Nick Diaz fight, look how he was humiliated in the second round, how he tapped out, subhanAllah. And that shows you, and he was someone who could have been so good. And
I know who that is.
And I think, subhanAllah, that if we look at these type of stories, there's a lot we can gain from it. Always I try to do it, and even in my khutbahs. I don't know if you remember in the family retreat, was it in 2014, I believe it was, when we were in, it was in Leicester, I believe. And I was coming, and I gave the khutbah there. They asked me to give the khutbah. There was actually a khutbah I given in Ireland before. And I started the khutbah saying that today's khutbah is coming directly from Hollywood, And I couldn't use the voice. Today's khutbah, directly from Hollywood, at a theater near you today.
You should record some sound bites, some sound effects.
So actually,
coming soon.
Yeah, that's it. MRDF family retreat. Register now.
You say something about Islam 21C as well now.
Islam 21C. You should have given me the thing, man. Actually, it was awesome. This the slogan you guys have for the event now. I really liked it. What was it for planning their own food show? Was that?
Tell your story.
Yeah, man, that's it. I mean, let's get that, man. Give that to me. Let me read that for you.
Okay,
Tell your own story before someone does it for you.
Can you just look at the camera and say, visit islam21c.com/donate today?
Visit islam21c/donate today. Do it now.
It's alright, I was kind of convinced, but
Bismillah.
You missed out the .com.
.com.
We'll add that in later.
Bismillah. Alhamdulillah. That's the good thing about editing.
That's a show business.
Bismillah. Yeah, alhamdulillah. Maybe I have a new career. Yeah. Actually, it was when I first filmed in Bollywood, by the way, Dr. Zachary likes it to be proper, So the first time I filmed, it was in Bollywood, Islamic set.
Slow motion walking.
Yeah. And that was another story, yeah. So I'm walking out and I'm supposed to just turn and look at the camera, I'm walking out like this, and I'm supposed to look and say my line. And I noticed that they always like to point, the Indian brothers, right? So I come out and I'm walking and I point and I said, your iman. And I looked like this, I said with him, and the director was like, yes. He comes out and he's like, this is it, this is perfect. And I was laughing, I was like, I'm not really going to do that, I was just doing it, it's just a joke, behind the scene thing. It's not my style. That's very important.
Did you get that, yeah? that was yeah, we're going to use that.
Follow Islam 21C, So,
I'm sorry, I have to apologize in advance. We're completely going to rinse that and use it all over the place.
I can imagine. You see it everywhere. No, but the thing is that and it's important as well. Each one has his own style. So I mean, it's not my style. It's the brother's style. So they use their own.
I'm
style.
more of a slow motion walker.
Yeah,
that's my style.
Actually, there is one. I'm on the beach and people are like, I'm walking very slow. I was like, no, so I was really heavy back then, so I thought I was going to sink into the sand. I was on the beach. That's why I had to walk like that, very slow, and it looked kind of funny how I was walking.
Some people have a natural swagger.
So yeah, where were we? We were way off track.
I think you're talking about. Colin McGregor.
Yeah, well, alhamdulillah. So anyways, I mean, if you look at these stories and how we can benefit from them, I said in the family retreat I talked about Robin Williams, and then when he had committed suicide, any type of, I see this is a ibrah. It's a lesson for us, and it's a lesson we're seeing on the news. It's a lesson we're seeing on the YouTube channels. It's a lesson we're hearing about. So why not talk it from an Islamic? I remember you guys, Islam 20C, you contacted me for something. It might have been about the Conor McGregor article as well. I was supposed to do my first article. It never happened. Maybe inshallah.
Okay.
Something after that will come.
I didn't want to bring it up, but yeah, I completely remember that.
Yeah, so it was actually you that contacted me.
Maybe it was my PA.
Alhamdulillah. So the point being is that we need to capitalize on these things. Like this rapper who died recently, it was a year or 2 years ago, Mac Miller. This was his upcoming rap. Never heard of him in my life, alhamdulillah. But when he died, committing suicide, drug overdose, these guys are going out. Yeah. And this shows our youth that this glamour life, this bling bling that they're talking about.
People are trying to escape him.
That's it. Because they can't deal with it. There's something wrong there. So this is what we need to capitalize on. So when we saw Khabib and we saw the good he was doing, also let's capitalize on that.
Dawa needs to be dynamic.
That's it. And also like Conor McGregor's issues. And when you get too flamboyant and you become calling yourself God, that's when the arrogance. That's when the downfall starts to come. SubhanAllah. And exactly, we see he's crashing and burning. I mean, and perhaps inshallah, perhaps it could be a good for him. And by the way,
but some people, they learn from the ibrah.
That's it. And
that's the thing about Muhammad Ali, rahimahullah. SubhanAllah, he would say, I'm the greatest. And then when he got Parkinson's disease, he learned from the ibrah. He said from the lesson. He said, Allah gave me this disease to show me that He's the greatest, not me.
That's beautiful, man.
That's somebody who's trying to learn from the ibrah. And look at the impact he had, rahimahullah.
Even with the non-Muslims, it wasn't just for the impact for us. Even with non-Muslims, it was phenomenal, the impact he had. SubhanAllah. Yeah. We were talking about the issue about training.
Yeah.
I'm doing some MMA and some BJJ and the issue of hitting in the face. We were debating with the brothers earlier because that came up with the issue about Khabib. It always comes up. You're praising him. Hitting in the face, it's haram. Okay, Islamically, yes, it is haram. But what is the level? And it was something interesting. There was a podcast recently with Brother Muhammad Hijab and Faris Dhahabi, which is he's the trainer of George St. Pierre. And
the George St. Pierre.
Yeah. So he's a Muslim brother, Faris Dhahabi, by the way. Mashallah.
I don't know who that is.
Come on, if you don't know, you have like.
I must admit that my knowledge
MMA background. If you know,
my knowledge of MMA isn't what it used to be.
He's one of the greatest. And actually, by the way, I like him. I like George St. Pierre because he does have some some humbleness. He's a very nice guy, and even if you look
you can tell some people have noble character traits.
Yeah, Daniel Cormier, for example, we're talking about non-Muslim fighters, but people who have akhlaq, they have manners. Yeah. Even Dustin Poirier, the one who fought Khabib last time, and I did actually talk about him, and then I had a problem uploading from. I didn't upload my YouTube channel, but it is on my Facebook. Some of the benefits we gained from the fight, the post-fight. And from that was, the respect that Khabib showed, the good things that.
So you're basically like a part-time MMA commentator, aren't you?
Well, maybe. Alhamdulillah.
Benefits of every fight.
Alhamdulillah. So, and interesting in this podcast.
That's a good niche, I think you found.
Maybe I don't know. I thought I'm thinking about now because back to what I said in Bollywood, where they told me one time, the guy said, "You're excellent behind the camera. You're a natural." I said, well, maybe I chose the wrong field to be in because I'm broke being a dad, man. I got no money. So look, I'd be a rich Bollywood guy, I have to be a little point all the time. Dancing, but at the end, have some money. Astaghfirullah, alhamdulillah.
The films are like 3 hours, man. It's not worth it.
Alhamdulillah.
I'd go Hollywood if I were you.
Just feel
Yeah, you're done in
Hollywood
90
today.
minutes.
At least the voice, yeah. Maybe inshallah I could go.
Yeah.
Astaghfirullah. May Allah protect us. Sometimes you have that stuff, it opens up for you, and then you fall into the fitna, you fall into the haram.
Yeah.
And may Allah help us. SubhanAllah.
So you're talking about punching in the face?
Punching in the face, yeah. So
these brothers criticize you and you punch them in the face?
On the podcast, Usman, that we talked about in the lecture last night about controlling oneself. The guy was looking at me at the airport, especially when you start to know martial arts. But the beautiful thing about martial arts, the more you know, the more you understand about martial arts, the more you know about defeating your opponent, the more confidence you get. Actually, the less you want to fight.
Okay.
It's always the one who doesn't know how to fight who wants to fight.
And they
come with the haymakers, and they come with this, and you just sit back and get in your stance, maintain the distance, and
that scares them.
Until he wears out, and then Bismillah, you go and you take him down. It's very easy because he doesn't know how to fight.
We do not condone violence.
Yeah.
On Soundcloud.
Bismillah. And the thing that could be my next article, by the way.
Yeah.
Bismillah, or my first article.
How to take someone out.
That's it. Take one down. Yeah. So you start to learn that you can do it, and the confidence that you can do it.
We believe in love and peace.
That's it. Love and peace. Huh? So the confidence that you can do it actually helps you not to do it.
Stay out of the fight.
Because you know I could smash this guy.
Yeah.
And
you don't feel you have something to prove.
That's it. So it's always the ones who have something to prove. But I mean, if someone attacks you, then you have to defend yourself. We mentioned the lecture last night about the guy in the airport. He was staring at me, and I said, like, I come from a Jahiliyyah background, where we're from. You stare at someone, people would get shot where I lived, or where I used to hang out anyways when I was a non-Muslim.
Where was that?
It's in the D.C. area, Washington D.C. area. I'm from the Virginia side of the border, but D.C. is like right next to us. So people would get shot for looking at people there. They was quite gritting on them. That was our term back in the day. If someone grits on you, looks at you like this, that's war right there. So this guy's looking at me in the airport like this, and I'm like, this guy, man, and he kept doing it, it's just like really testing me. But then I remember the teaching.
And then they were like, AbdurRaheem, is that you?
No, yes, and knock him out. Sorry, bro. I didn't. Alhamdulillah. No, this guy was a non-Muslim. You could see, and he was just looking at me. And then you have that thing like he looking at you as a Muslim, looking at your wife as a hijabi. You have to control yourself. But what is the teachings? What is the teaching of our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? He said, "Laysa shadidu bisurati." He said, the one who is strong is not the one who can wrestle people down. وَإِنَّمَا الشَّدِيدُ الَّذِي يَمْلِكْ نَفْسُهُ عِنْدَ الْغَضَبِ. That the one who's the strong one is the one who can control himself at the time of anger. And that's one of the things that martial arts teaches you as well. You know you can beat someone down, so you have nothing to prove in coming to try to do it. So then, alhamdulillah, but when it comes back to hitting the face, back to the podcast, we're getting a bit off track.
So you punched him?
No, alhamdulillah, I control myself. I followed the sunnah, alhamdulillah, and just looked away.
Yeah.
And just walked away, alhamdulillah. And
that's my story, I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, alhamdulillah, that's it. So when I walked around, actually an interesting story I have on my YouTube channel about the Muslim scholar who knocked out 3 racist thugs. Go back and listen to it. It's very beautiful. You know the Sheikh too.
Was it on the train?
Yeah, on the train. You might know.
I think I've heard this. Yeah.
The funny thing was that the Sheikh called me, and he said, "I'm preparing my bag to travel. I'm listening to the story someone sent me on WhatsApp, and it's you telling the story about him knocking the people out 3-on-1, mashallah. He was trained, so he knew how to defend himself and defend his family. So if you need it, you use it, obviously. In the gym we train in Ireland, our coach, he taught us, and he teaches my son who trains with him, teaches, and I train with him in private lessons as well. He teaches the kids. He said these other schools, about certain, I don't want to talk about any negative about any martial arts, but certain martial arts, they say don't only use it in the gym, don't never use it in the street. He said because it doesn't work. They don't want to be exposed that it doesn't work. But he said we want our kids, if they're bullied, if they're this, to protect themselves, to use what they've learned in the gym. We had one kid. He was a Polish kid who trained with my son. I know he had some, with his glasses, maybe a bit, he was a cute looking boy, maybe someone he would pick on him by the way he looked, He looked a bit miskeen how he would handle himself, but he was training with them as well. So this big bully was always, picking on him for over a year. And after 1 year of training, MMA and in BJJ, he grabbed the kid, did a hip toss, put him on the ground, made the bully cry. The bully kind of thought, he got lucky. Came back 2 weeks later, tries luck again, same throw, same put down, same result. So what happened, our coach came and he said, I want to applaud him. And he came and he rewarded him, bought him a gift, and applauded him in front of all of the other students. If you're bullied, then use it. But you don't, and that martial arts teaches you not to be the transgressor. But if somebody comes to harm you.
I suppose it's better than, the kid bottling it up and then becoming some mass shooter later on in life.
It could ruin him for the rest of his life, man. And that's what bullying does. That's a sad thing about bullying. Even some who have committed suicide, subhanAllah.
I think that the kind of the controlled and mediated use of violence in a very controlled and measured way, I think it's part of the natural.
That's one of the things when we talk about learning martial arts for our kids. One of the good things about BJJ is that you can actually take someone down and you can control them until an adult comes.
Until they calm down.
Until they calm down, or they decide they say they're gonna calm down. And you could submit them if you need to.
So back to the original issue, if about punching in the face, somebody would say.
Okay, so on the podcast, and Brother Faris, he said I can accept, and he said, "There's anyone out there from a mufti? I don't consider myself a mufti. I'm a student of knowledge, but I will give my 2 cents on what he said, because he said, because we're not, I'm not remembering exactly his phrases, but he was saying that, if someone is actually, they're not like at war. It's a competition, trained martial artists.
Sport.
It's an art of sport, but they're also trying to see which one is superior. So this is one of the things they're trying to determine now. Or one of the benefits of going, full combat is to determine which martial art is superior, which one is the best, and how it can evolve, and all these type of things, which is very interesting what he said. However, we could say that with the first few UFCs, that's been proven, that the martial art that is superior is grappling in BJJ. And even Bruce Lee, he mentioned that a person who trains in wrestling and boxing for 1 year, he could beat a lifetime martial artist. That's how
Really?
that's how effective those arts are. And when it comes to the issue of hitting in the face, obviously the ruling stays the same, that it's not permissible in Islam. However, when it comes to sparring and things like that, as we were speaking with the brothers earlier, you kind of have to be in a live sparring situation to know what to do. When I would train with my coach in Ireland, he would come and you have to duck, you have to move right, move left, move your head. If you don't move, what's going to happen? Bismillah. He's coming.
It's your own fault.
You're going to get hit. You didn't move. You knew what you were supposed to do and you didn't do it.
I mean, he was just doing that. Your face had to be there.
But obviously here, with this type of sparring, what are we doing? He's not coming full force and trying to knock me out or break my nose.
I mean, it's different than, someone grabbing you and trying to beat the hell out of you.
And that's it. So if it's that type of thing, I think where you're sparring with someone who's a sane sparrer, not the crazy one who's going all out, then I think there's nothing wrong with that, to do it sometimes. You don't want to do it too much because someone could get hurt. I mean, that's my opinion. I think it's a bit of a middle ground where you could, when you're sparring, but as a sport and things like that, I think the ruling is going to remain the same, where it is haram. However, if that's what someone chooses to do, we have to remember that there's different scenarios, different circumstances. People come from poor countries, they're finding a way out. We're not in their shoes. And in the end, that's between them and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
And the Muslim community, we need to realize that there are some people, the Ummah is full of people who, they have negative aspects, but there's a lot of good you can learn from. And
we see a lot of the brothers who are professional athletes now, they might do some things that are haram, but they have a lot of good as well. We have to applaud that.
And inshallah, Allah will wipe the good wipes out the harm, inshallah. Not the other way around.
I always try to look at things as positive, and that's what we talked about last night, the mindset of the believer. Always try to look at things in a positive light. Always try to find where's the hikmah, where's the wisdom behind things, because there's always good in the affairs of the believer, as the Prophet ﷺ told us. Alhamdulillah.
Okay, Jazakallah khair on that note. I think there's another storm coming.
So we have to
some lightning coming.
Another island, huh?
We have to get off this desert island now and tropical island. It's getting annoying as well. Jazakallah khair at home for watching. If you can, if you're still seeing this, remember to subscribe if you like this if you like this podcast. Sorry, I can't multitask at the same time. Yeah.
If you like this podcast, you're not supposed to have a script.
Let's get this right. So, if you like this podcast, subscribe. Give it a like and a share. And
Islam 21C for life.
Salman Butt is cool.
Salman Butt. He needs to work on his accent. It's too heavy English.
Top of the morning to ya.
That's it. Yeah. No, he is cool, man. He's a cool guy. Yeah.
Cool guy. I'm freezing actually, I don't know.
Yeah, you're getting cold, huh?
Yeah, I think we're done. Jazakallah khair. Can you get a solution for humanity?
The solution for humanity. Islam 21C. The solution for humanity.
Actually, cut that out. Might get some.
Yeah, you might.
Ask for some royalties or something.
That's it. Might get upset. Jazakallah khair. Barakallah feek. Assalamu alaikum. Unscripted.